Ah yes, the Tour de France. Isn't that when cyclists take 3 weeks holiday touring France on a bike? It must be marvellous. The peace and quiet of a country town in the morning. And a gentle cruise through the countryside in the afternoon. Perhaps taking in some mountain scenery along the way. Stopping occasionally for a rest. Enjoying the good food that France is famous for. Sampling the fine wines and waters of the region. And a few photographs to show the family. Enjoying a holiday far from the madding crowds. And finishing each day looking forward to the next. Now, that's what you call a holiday. The city of Lyon welcomes the Tour de France for the first time since 1965, and it's putting on its best face. The world's greatest riders arrived here on Thursday, reporting in for the compulsory medical check before facing the 3 weeks marathon. Greg LeMond, the three-time winner, passed with flying colours, but the American had to share the limelight with the Dutchman Gert-Jan Teunissen, back after a year's enforced layoff for alleged doping, and still as popular as ever. This is the route the 22 teams face, a total of 3,900 kilometres to Paris. From Lyon it's north to Brittany, then south to the Pyrenees where we make an incursion into Spain, then over to the Alps and finally Paris on July the 28th. And at 1:30 precisely this afternoon, Spain's Xavier Duc Ballester opened the 78th Tour de France. Hello and welcome to one of the world's great sporting occasions, and Gary Imlach, Paul Sherwin and myself, Phil Liggett, will now bring you daily coverage of this event, which, believe us, is a lot more than just a bike race. But first of all, the predictions, which none of us like, the top 15 places in Paris. First of all, let's begin with Gary's prediction for 15th place.
After his recent win in the French Dauphiné race and being king of the mountains in the Tour of Spain, Lucho Herrera is set to return to the top 15 in Paris.
Former East German and therefore a latecomer to professional cycling, Uwe Ampler told me last year that he would one day win the Tour de France. 14th this time for him.
The only Mexican to ride the Tour with success, Raul may again be hampered by other stars on his team from taking a high finish.
Robert Miller is having another solid season. After winning the time trial stage of the recent Tour of Switzerland, he's ready for the big one. For him, a high place won't be as important as winning the King of the Mountains again, repeating his and Britain's only success in 1984.
Jean-Francois knows all about the ups and downs of the Tour de France. In 1987, his second tour, he took the overall lead, but then followed a knee injury, which started his career going downhill. Last year he retired in the race, his future in doubt, but he's back with his Spanish team and the trend is up.
Perico Delgado has many fans and they follow him to the Tour. In 1988, his hometown of Segovia celebrated his great win, but since then his form has never quite been good enough. He missed his start in Luxembourg in 1988, finally climbing from last overall to third in Paris. He crashed on the opening stage last year.
Third in the Tour of Spain and fifth in the Giro, Marino is so consistent he must take a high finish.
Andy Hampson is a real talent, but sometimes he finds it hard to accept. His confidence is back right now, so expect a challenge for the top.
Unlikely leader last year, the new world's #1 will be well marked this time. No one will forget his fierce and brave defence once he pulled on the leader's yellow jersey. Certainly not the Italians, and these headlines speak for themselves, and Chiappucci will hope to live up to them.
Miguel Indurain is set to replace Delgado as the new Spanish hope. Until now, he's always been the bit player, helping his teammate try to win the race. Last year, he sacrificed his chance of a win on Alpe d'Huez for Delgado, then beat Le Mans to the top of Les Ardennes. This time, he'll try to beat him to Paris.
Belgium is ready now to find a replacement for the retiring Claude Criquillon, and Johan Bruneel looks like the one. In his first tour last year, he showed he could climb and finish 17th. His form is good, and a surprise could be in store.
If nice guys were automatic winners, then Eric would win every time. This year, the course may not suit him, so a step back from third last year to fourth this is what we think. But his win in America's Tour du Pont shows he's ready now to do battle.
After a year's suspension for alleged steroid abuse, Turnusser came back with an immediate win in the Tour of Luxembourg. They said the enigma of the sport has trained 35,000 miles during his year out and climbed Alpe d'Huez 80 times. The man his fans call Geronimo could be back with his best ever finish.
Italy has not won the Tour since 1965, but Gianni Bugna has the ability. Last year, he became the first Italian to win on Alpe d'Huez since Fausto Coppi won there in the 50s. He also won at Bordeaux. He's trained with victory in mind and must be the most likely to take Le Mans' title.
And our number one this year is Greg LeMond, who feels the pull of the Tour de France like no other. His career was interrupted by his hunting accident, and his story really is fairy tale stuff. He returned to the race in 1989, and he won it with the narrowest margin in history, just 8 seconds. LeMond is an innovator, always searching for something new that will help him win the race. When LeMond rides the Tour, it's an ill wind that will blow no good for the rest of the field. He should become the first rider to score a hat-trick since Eddie Merckx.
It'd be nice to every time I start the Tour to win, but unfortunately, you can't always be at your best in July every year. I try to be, and I hope I am. I don't know if I'm 100% confident that I am at my best right now, but I'm feeling better. I mean, I need the heat. I need the good weather to race well. I'm a sunshine boy.
Did you notice the twinkle there in Greg LeMond's eyes? He really does get fired up about this race, just simply talking about it. And the riders do right to fear him. Two riders we haven't mentioned so far, previous winners of the Tour de France, Laurent Fignon and Stephen Roche. Both are here, of course, but both don't appear to have the winning form this time. Well, we'd be as delighted, I'm sure they would be, if they proved us wrong. But one man who is here, and this is something of a surprise, is Ronan Pensek. Ronan Pensek wore the yellow jersey in the race last year, but this time he's a late entry. His team failed to qualify, so what he did was he simply changed teams, and he starts the Tour de France riding for the Amaya squad. Crash helmets this year are compulsory for the first time ever, and some of them are even wired for sound, so that managers can talk directly to the riders. Well, first, it's the individual 5.4 kilometres prologue time trial, and to tell us more about the difficulties on the course, here's Paul.
The course is flat and at 5.4 kilometres very short, with a rising tailwind through the Parc de la Tête d'Or in the north of Lyon. The problems begin near the finish when the riders have to negotiate the exit through the park gates, followed by an immediate chicane. With the roads being hot and sticky, it's difficult to predict how the bike will handle. Two more difficult bends need to be negotiated before turning into the final 500-metre finishing straight. It's in these final corners that a rider can lose the valuable seconds necessary to take the yellow jersey. From this point on, it's an all-out sprint to the line.
So now let's catch up with the race stories so far this afternoon. The overall leaderboard shows Rolf Goltz, the German, riding on the Austria team with 6 minutes 22.38. That's the best time. In second place, the Tour of Flanders winner, Edwig van Hooijdonk. And in third place, the former leader of the Tour de France, a little bit of a surprise, Pascal Simon. And it may all change now with the arrival of Jean-Francois Bernard. Very strange, Paul, when you see a French rider riding on the Spanish team.
Well, he's made a big comeback this year, and it's going to be on the line. It looks like it's the best time, 6:21.
Superb time, Jean-Francois Bernard. He really is back, 6 minutes 21.03 seconds. And this is Francis Moreau coming into the home straight, and it looks to me, Paul, as though he's on a terrific time here. He's the rider who's won the Prologue in Paris-Nice, and he was 4th in this prologue in Futuroscope. Look at his time.
Well, this is a good time. He came out of the park there in a good time of 5:35. So on the line, it's taken about 40 seconds to get from that park gate down here to the finish line. One of the French hopefuls for this stage, along with Thierry Marie, but it looks as if he just might get it.
Well, he's done a great ride because he's up on Bernard's time as he's left the main gate there of the park. And look at this, he comes up to the line now. Terrific time, Francis Moreau. He rides the Belgian team 6:18.34, and that's the best so far. Well, that's a marvellous performance by Francis Moreau. Our own Sean Yates was in action much earlier in the starting order today, and looking very strong indeed. When Sean Yates went round the course, he actually finished in the 8th best time at that stage of the race. He came home with a time of 6 minutes 28.57, which is now being compared with that ride of Francis Moreau of 6 minutes 18.34. Robert Miller, by the way, who admits he wasn't too concerned by the prologue, came home with 6 minutes 41.03. Well, this looks like Laurent Fignon coming into our view now, twice a winner of the Tour de France and riding a very special bicycle on this occasion.
Well, Fignon's doing quite a reasonable time as well, but he's definitely trying to outdo the Americans, especially Greg LeMond back in 1989 when he revolutionized the handlebars. You can just about see his handlebar there, and he's also got a seat at the back with a special profile on it.
So sporting everything, Paul, but his time, I think, you know, is going to be a bit outside the time of Francis Moreau, the other young Frenchman who's leading at the minute. And while Moreau's come in, so too has Vyacheslav Yekimov. He's got the second best time of 6 minutes 20.72, but this might be an indication that Laurent Fignon isn't so far off his top form, and people might be wrong in writing this man out of the scenario this year. Fignon still drawing the applause of the crowd here as he comes home. A little bit off the pace though, 6 minutes 33.73 seconds, 46th place at the moment, with a lot of big names still to come. So we'll take the opportunity and take a short break.
By French standards, Lyon is classed as something of a sprawling industrial town, which means it would make a passable holiday resort in Britain. Officially, it's France's 3rd biggest city, although in the competitive nature of these things, it nowadays likes to claim itself 2nd ahead of Marseille. What's important for our purposes, though, is that it won the annual race to host the first stage of this year's tour. According to the bookie, the winner of the race itself will come from the usual small cast of characters. Greg LeMond is the 5-2 favourite to complete his 3rd consecutive win of the Tour, with Gianni Bugno behind him at 4-1 and the Dutchman Eric Breukink at 6-1. Claudio Ciappucci, who got that 10-minute break on the rest of the leaders last year, is quoted at 8-1. Pedro Delgado is into double figures at 11s, with his teammate Miguel Indurain sharing odds with Raul Alcala behind him. Gert-Jan Teunissen back after his drug ban could be an interesting bet for at least a top 3 place at 25-1. And bunched at 33-1, a 2-time winner Laurent Fignon, his fellow countryman Gilles de Lyon, and Stephen Roach of Ireland. We'll actually be keeping an eye on another member of the Roach family, Stephen's younger brother Lawrence, who's riding in his first ever tour and has the dubious distinction of being our adopted rookie this year. British hopes, of course, will ride with Sean Yates of Motorola, who'll be looking for a win on one of the flatter stages, and Robert Miller of Scotland will be looking for a win in the mountains, although as ever he recognises that personal ambition has to take a back seat to the team cause.
Of course, I'll try and win a stage in the Pyrenees like I usually do, but as I say, the whole thing is to make sure that Greg wins. I think that's the most important for Zed, and it's the most important for the riders as well.
Greg LeMond will be the first subject in a series of rider profiles which will be running every day this week from Monday. We'll also have a couple of stories on the technology that backs the riders up. For the moment, though, back to today's action, and Phil.
So this is the situation so far. Tremendous performance there by Francis Moreau to take the top of the leaderboard. In 2nd place, an equal good performance by Melchior Mary just in, and Vyacheslav Yekimov and Jean-Francois Bernard. That's the order, and the next man to come, Miguel Indurain. And here comes Miguel Indurain, starting just behind Melchior Mary. And Indurain, beaten by Mary in the Tour of Spain, now promising us all a good Tour de France. And I think this year we're going to see him, Paul, as the leader of the Benesto squad.
Well, he could well be, because there's a lot more time trialling in the Tour de France this year. That's an area where he excels. He's also a very good climber. He's fighting his way down the finishing straight now. He may well surprise us and come up with a good one for the time trial prologue.
Well, a lot of people are expecting him to win this one today. He rode well in it last year to finish 8th at Futuroscope. This has been a totally flat course here, though, and it's going to be right on the line, just a shaving over the top. It's a long way to that line. Third place for Indurain at the moment, 6:20.39. And here comes Stephen Roach, while in the box there, the countdown for Gert-Jan Teunissen as he leaves the box, and Roach a little bit off the pace here. He's very worried about his form, and he has really worked very hard to qualify his new Belgian Tonton Tapis team for the Tour de France. Now he's got them in it. It'll only be in the next few days whether we know he has the staying power to see us all the way to Paris. Stephen Roach, the winner of the Tour de France 1987, and dropping a little bit off the pace. And funnily enough, Paul, Francis Moreau is the man that Stephen has really pushed in this sport. He'll be delighted with that ride.
Well, he's looked after Francis Moreau for a long time. He's got a lot of confidence in him as Stephen comes over in 6:38 there.
So Roach is in, and let's go a little bit further down the road now to pick up Jelle Nijdam, the man who has won stage in the Tour de France, both in the time trial and on the road, and he really has the speed for this type of race, and it looks as though he might be himself pushing the time quite close.
Well, he could be there just on the line. He's a specialist in this kind of effort, one of those men who can excel themselves over 5 or 6 kilometres. He's coming to the line there, a little bit of picture break up, 6:08. He's got 200 metres to go. It might be very close.
This looks like a very good finish indeed. Well, his father was a pure man of speed as well, the world pursuit champion in 1961, and he's in the third best time, 6:19.8. So he's gone ahead of Miguel Indurain with that time, 6:19.8. Indurain doing 6:20.39. And next to come into our view here, Gert-Jan Teunissen, who has caused quite a big attraction amongst the journalists here after a year out through suspension for alleged taking artificial stimulants, and he's out to prove a point this year, Paul.
He's not going to prove that point in the prologue, that's for sure, but he could do when we come to the mountains, because he's going through the exit of the park there in 5:56, so he's well outside the top times. But he's definitely done a lot of training. He's done 35,000 miles training in his suspension. He's been up Alpe d'Huez on 80 times. He's won 2 major stage races already this year, so I think when we go to the mountains, we'll see a lot more of Gert-Jan Teunissen.
Well, like all of the riders, using streamlining equipment, a low-profile bicycle with the triathlete's handlebars fitted into that tuck position for the sprint up the line, but it's not going to help him this time. His time going way outside the leader's time. Francis Moreau breathes a sigh of relief again as Teunissen comes up to the line well off the leaderboard. So he'll have to prove his point somewhere else. He's not going to start this race in yellow, and I had a feeling he felt as though he might have done. Way down, 112th position for him. And here's the arrival now of Thierry Marie, and a lot of people believe this rider can win this stage of the Tour de France. He's done it twice before. Now can he make it a hat-trick?
Well, he's come round there very quickly after we've seen the previous rider come in. He's one of the best specialists in the world at this kind of effort. Look at him fighting all the way down the finish line. He may well do it.
Well, this is going to be a tremendous finish by Thierry Marie, trying for a hat-trick of Prologue time trial victories over the years. His first was back in 1986. He won last year in Futuroscope, and now he's going to get the best time again. On the line, 6:11.23. Thierry Marie is the new leader. Concentration on the face of Eric Breukink, who may not even know the finish just been made by Thierry Marie, but he certainly knows he has the measure of that rider if he can get it all out in the next few minutes. So a little bit further down the road now, this is Gianni Bugno riding a brand new bicycle, and yet another development on this streamlining, Paul.
Well, everybody's trying everything they can at the moment to cut down on those vital seconds, because now cycling is really being played out by seconds. We saw a couple of years ago Greg LeMond won the Tour de France by only 8 seconds, and I'm sure that's what everybody thinks about. Gianni Bugno's jersey there, by the way, is the Italian national champion's jersey, which he just won last Sunday.
And it matches rather well with the team colours, actually, and the bicycle. He blends nicely. Well, the great thing about cycle racing is the riders always must feel part of the machine and not as if they're sat on something that isn't part of them, and Bugno looks absolutely one-on-one here. His time is a good solid time because this is the rider who could give Greg LeMond a really tough time in the mountains. And Bugno, winner of the Tour of Italy a year ago and 2 stages of the Tour de France, in 6:29.86. Pedro Delgado, this is the situation at the moment. Thierry Marie leading with that 6 minutes 11 seconds ride. Francis Moreau 7 seconds slower. Melchor Mauri, the winner of the Tour of Spain, is 3rd, and Yellow Nidam is in 4th place. Miguel Indurain in 5th. Delgado, well, will he be the number 2 on the Banesto team this year? We'll have to wait and find out as the race unfolds, of course, but Delgado hasn't given us any real indication yet that he has the form for this year's Tour de France.
The people inside his team have still got that confidence in him, but I think they've got a good advantage because Indurain has matured a lot this year and they could fight on 2 fronts, and I think Delgado is big enough to help Indurain if need be.
A time again is a good one for a man who isn't a specialist. Memories are gone now of a couple of years ago when he missed his start in the Prologue time trial, and before he'd even left the area of Luxembourg where the race started, he was over 2 3/4 minutes down. Now Eric Brooking making the turn for home, and he is probably the rider who can match the time of Thierry Marie.
He's probably the only man left unless Greg LeMond really pulls something out of the bag. He's there 5:47 at the moment. It's going to be very difficult, I think, for him to do that, but Eric is thinking about later on. There's the team time trial tomorrow. He could be in the yellow jersey if he's the best rider in his team.
Well, he won 2 time trials last year, Eric Brooking, and he is a superb lone rider against the watch. It's going to be close, very close indeed, and it's going to be right on the line whether he's in or out of the yellow jersey today. It's out, I'm afraid, but only just 6:13.32 for Brooking, and that is the second best time with only 1 man to finish now, as the cameras will go off in search of the winner of the Tour de France for the last 2 years. And here he comes, Greg LeMond, wearing the colour which he finished in last year's Tour as the winner, indeed, for the last 2 years. And Greg LeMond's time is a good one, but I don't think, Paul, it's going to match Thierry Marie.
Well, it's a good time because he'll be well up with all the other favourites, but I think he's going to be outside that time. But it just goes to show Greg LeMond really can pull something out of the bag when he needs to, and he always seems to do when we come to the Tour de France.
He'll want to compare his time more with that of Eric Brooking than Thierry Marie. Marie is not good enough to win the Tour de France, and Greg LeMond and Eric Brooking simply are. And LeMond in the last 100 metres now has done a superb opener to the Tour de France. There is no question about that. Greg LeMond is again showing the magic form for the Tour. 3rd best time on the day, 6:14.71. And if anybody was in any doubt whatsoever, well, they won't be now, because Greg LeMond is again going to be the man to beat in this year's Tour de France.
So a marvellous victory for Thierry Marie. He's done this twice before in the Tour de France. He knows what it's like to start out on the first full day wearing the leader's yellow jersey. In 2nd place, Eric Brooking, the man that Greg LeMond fears most. And in 3rd place, Greg himself, coming up trumps yet again in an opening prologue of the Tour de France. 4th, Francis Moreau, and 5th, Melchor Mauri, the winner of the Tour of Spain 2 months ago. But no real big losers in this opening prologue time trial. Even Gianni Bugno only conceded 15 seconds to Greg LeMond. Well, Paul Sherwin was down with Greg LeMond soon after he crossed the finishing line.
Greg, that just goes to show that you've got the form there. You've come in the prologue in 3rd place. You must be quite pleased.
I'm pretty happy. I started feeling good just a couple of days before the race, and I'm happy.
Any problems with your morale? Because when you went to the Tour of Italy, you had to withdraw, but then in Switzerland, you looked very good.
My morale goes up and down until I hit my good form, and I felt I was getting there in the Tour of Switzerland, but with the rain and that, I really couldn't judge. But obviously, I'm in decent shape.
Obviously in decent shape, but are you good enough to win?
Yeah.
So Greg LeMond inspired, and the rest of the riders should take note of that. Tomorrow it's a double dose for the riders in the Tour de France, a road race in the morning followed by a team time trial in the afternoon. In our special 1-hour programme beginning at 5:30, we'll also include a profile of Greg LeMond, and we'll meet the great man himself, Eddy Merckx. But for Thierry Marie and for France, it'll be the start of a great day at least, because he'll be beginning the race now in the leader's yellow jersey. At the moment from France, from me, Phil Liggett, Paul Sherwin and Gary Imlach, I say a very good night to you.